September 1944. A narrow Dutch street. Early morning. The bicycle stops abruptly. A German patrol blocks the road ahead. Rifles come up. Boots scrape on cobblestone. The man on the bicycle does not reach for a weapon. He doesn't run. He doesn't speak. He looks like a civilian. That is the problem. Under his coat, taped against his ribs, is a folded map marked with checkpoints, safe houses, names. If they find it, he will not be arrested. He will be executed. Not later. Not after questioning. Here. On this street. The officer steps closer and gestures for him to dismount. The man smiles. Calm. Polite. He swings one leg over the frame and sets the bicycle down carefully, as if he has all the time in the world. His hands are steady. Too steady. Behind him, a window opens slightly. Somewhere down the street, someone is watching. Waiting for a signal that may never come. The officer reaches for the coat. This is the moment. In the next few seconds, the man will decide whether to comply, to resist, or to do something that no one on either side will expect. A choice that will save dozens of lives, or end his own before the sun fully rises. This is not a story about combat. It is a story about what happens when war meets someone who looks harmless and isn't. He was born into a country that learned early how small it was. The Netherlands had no illusions about power. Flat land. Open roads. No mountains to hide behind. When armies came through, there was nowhere to disappear. Survival depended on knowing people, not controlling territory. Before the war, he lived an ordinary life. Work in the morning. Family in the evening. Bicycles in the street, church bells on Sundays. He was not trained for violence. He was trained for routine. For remembering faces. For noticing when something was out of place. When the Germans occupied the country in 1940, nothing changed all at once. Shops stayed open. Trams still ran. Orders arrived quietly. So did fear. The resistance did not begin with weapons. It began with information. Who was arrested? Who disappeared? Which roads were watched? Which houses were no longer safe? Messages had to move faster than patrols and quieter than fear. That is how he became useful. He did not look dangerous. He did not sound angry. He could ride through checkpoints without drawing attention, carrying nothing that looked like a threat. He learned how to memorize routes, then burn the paper. How to speak just enough German to sound cooperative. How to smile without revealing anything. The bicycle was not a symbol. It was a tool. By 1944, he had carried warnings that saved families from night raids. He had delivered instructions that redirected entire resistance cells. Each trip added weight to what he carried, not in his pockets, but in his mind. And on this morning, in this narrow street, that weight is pressed against his ribs. Because this time, the map is real. And the patrol has stopped him anyway. By the summer of 1944, the war had moved closer, but freedom had not. Allied forces had landed in France. Rumors traveled faster than radios. Liberation felt near enough to imagine, but still far enough to be dangerous. The Germans tightened control as their position weakened. Checkpoints multiplied. Curfews shortened. Random searches became routine. For the resistance, this was the most dangerous phase of the occupation. He was no longer just carrying information. He was carrying timing. Messages now decided whether sabotage happened too early or too late. Whether a safe house stayed safe. Whether a group moved or vanished. One mistake did not just cost his life. It unraveled networks that had taken years to build. He learned to live inside routines. Same streets. Same pace. Same posture. He became part of the city's background. German soldiers saw him every day and stopped really seeing him at all. That invisibility was his protection. But invisibility only worked until it didn't. On this morning, the message he carries is different. It cannot wait. It cannot be memorized and destroyed. It must be delivered exactly as written, to exactly the right people, before nightfall. That is why the map is still on him. The patrol did not know this when they stopped him. They were looking for weapons. For radios. For something obvious. Instead, they found a man who looked like everyone else. And that made the next decision harder than any gunfight. The officer circles him slowly. Not aggressively. Not yet. This is inspection, not interrogation. The kind meant to unsettle people who have something to hide. The officer asks simple questions. Where are you going? Where are you coming from? Why so early? The answers come easily. Too easily. Names of streets. A cousin. A delivery that cannot be late. The kind of story that fits the morning and asks for nothing more. The officer nods, unconvinced. A second soldier checks the bicycle. Fingers run along the frame. Under the seat. Inside the small pouch hanging from the handlebars. Nothing. No tools. No weapon. Just a repair kit and a folded newspaper. The officer gestures again. The coat. The man unbuttons it slowly. Every movement measured. If he rushes, they will search harder. If he hesitates, they will notice. The fabric parts just enough for the officer to see inside. The map is still hidden. For now. But the officer reaches out anyway. In the distance, an engine starts. Somewhere else in the city, the war continues as if this street does not matter. As if this moment is small. It isn't. If the map is found, there will be no questions. No trial. The bicycle will fall. The street will clear. The day will continue without him. He understands something very clearly now. Compliance will not save him. Silence will not save him. The situation has already narrowed. There is only one remaining chance. It will look harmless. Almost foolish. Something no one would prepare for. And it has to work immediately. The officer's hand reaches forward. Not fast. Not violent. Just certain. Before it touches the coat, the man stumbles. It is clumsy. Convincing. The front wheel of the bicycle twists, catching on a loose stone. The frame tips. The man goes down with it, arms flailing, balance gone. The bicycle crashes onto the street, metal clattering loudly against cobblestone. The officer steps back instinctively. So do the soldiers. For half a second, everyone reacts instead of thinking. The man apologizes immediately. Too quickly. Embarrassed. Humiliated. He laughs at himself, brushing dirt from his trousers, speaking rapidly in Dutch, gesturing at the bicycle as if it is the most important thing in the world. The map slips loose inside his coat. But no one sees it. The officer's attention is on the disruption. On the noise. On the sudden break in routine. Civilians nearby glance over. A window closes. Someone mutters. The soldier checking the bicycle bends to lift it. Another waves him off. Enough. Let him go. The officer hesitates. Then he nods. The man straightens the bicycle, thanks them again, and mounts it carefully this time. His hands shake now, just enough to look natural. He pedals away at a normal pace. Not fast. Not relieved. Just another civilian continuing his morning. He does not look back. Only when the street turns does he allow himself to breathe. The map is still there. And the message is still alive that he does not stop writing until the city changes shape. Wide streets give way to narrower ones. German flags thin out. Familiar faces reappear. Only then does he slow, turning down an alley that looks no different from the others. The kind of place people pass every day without remembering. Inside a back room, the map is unfolded at last. Hands point. Routes are adjusted. A safe house is abandoned before nightfall. Another is reinforced. Messages ripple outward, quiet and precise. People move because of what he carried through that street. By evening, the patrol is gone. The officer will never know how close he came to ending something much larger than one man on a bicycle. No reports are written about this moment. No records kept. There is no file that says how many lives were spared because a map was not found. That is how resistance survives, by leaving no proof behind. The man washes his hands. Changes his coat. Puts the bicycle back where it belongs. Tomorrow, he will write again when the war ends. There is no ceremony for what he did. No medal waits for a man whose victories were measured in absences. In raids that never happened. In arrests that came too late. In doors that were never kicked in at dawn. He returns to ordinary life almost seamlessly. The bicycle remains. The streets look the same. Only the uniforms are gone. People speak more freely, but carefully, as if habits formed under occupation might still be listening. He takes up work again. Marries. Builds a routine that does not involve memorizing escape routes or counting footsteps behind him. To those who meet him later, he is unremarkable. Kind. Reserved. Easy to forget in a crowd. Sometimes, someone mentions the resistance. Stories surface in fragments. Names that were never written down. Moments that sound too small to matter when compared to battles and liberation parades. He listens. He rarely adds anything. What he carried did not explode. It did not burn. It did not leave visible scars. But it shaped outcomes just the same. Quietly. Permanently. The bicycle eventually rusts. The streets change. The war becomes something people talk about in past tense. What remains is the habit of noticing when something feels wrong and acting before anyone else realizes why war trains people to look for danger where it is loud. Guns. Explosions. Uniforms. Orders shouted in the open. History remembers those moments because they leave marks that are easy to see and easy to count. But occupation changes the rules. Under occupation, danger hides in routines. In streets that look ordinary. In bicycles that carry nothing visible. Survival depends not on force, but on judgment, on knowing when to comply, when to disappear, and when to disrupt expectation just long enough to slip through it. The man on the bicycle did not defeat the patrol. He did not overpower anyone. He did something far more fragile. He exploited hesitation. For a brief moment, order broke. Attention shifted. The system paused. And in that pause, information survived. Resistance is often imagined as defiance. In reality, it is restraint. The discipline to look harmless while carrying consequences. The courage to act without recognition, knowing the success of the act will erase itself. No monument marks that street. No plaque explains what almost happened there. The war moved on, unaware of how close it came to a different outcome. But history is not only shaped by battles that explode into memory. Sometimes, it is shaped by a bicycle that keeps moving.